Imagine that you open your eyes for the very first time. You've awakened into an existence that's blanketed in sepia tones and dust particles, and everything is so quiet. You're alone. Confused yet driven by the pursuit of knowledge, the pursuit of purpose, you begin your journey to finding identity and truth. You take your first steps, and suddenly come across the massive corpse of your own dead god. This is 9, a sentient ragdoll. He begins his life in a workshop, clueless as to what the world is or what he is. Soon enough, he wanders from his birthplace and emerges into a wasteland littered with human corpses. Okay, well, not exactly. I mean, it is a wasteland that's littered and has human corpses, so in a way, it's a wasteland that's littered, comma, with human corpses. But anyway, 9 goes on a journey of self-discovery and finds 8 other ragdolls that are similar to him in stature, yet so different in their nature. Number 1 is strict and controlling, yet cowardly. Number 2 is the inquisitive, wise inventor. Numbers 3 and 4 are siblings who don't speak but use their eyes to archive and display things. Number 5 has anxiety, but a pure heart. Number 6 is prophetic, but ultimately no one can decipher his diagrams and cryptic messages. Number 7 is brave and fierce. She's also the girl one. Number 8 has brawn, but no brains. The post-apocalyptic universe they are born into is filled with dangerous machines, but they all survive because of the powerful bonds of camaraderie. Together they assemble the broken pieces of the human world and restore humanity to how it once was. Oh, what was that? Oh, so they didn't do any of that? Oh, so humanity is still very much dead and the world is still very much empty by the end of this movie? Oh, alright, well, okay, well, let's just rewind the movie and, oh, why are so many of them dead? Let's keep going back. Oh god, is that how they died? Okay, so machine is doing this stuff. Okay, so machines are scary. What the heck is this thing? Okay, the dolls are learning about fascism now. What was this movie even about? I wonder if I'm the only one who's just a little bit weary of the new wave of obsession that we've developed over AI. I mean, don't get me wrong, when used for the hashtag memes and purely for fun and play, I'm all for it. I think we all knew where we were when this baddie debuted on the scene. I used to talk to Cleverbot literally for hours as a teen, just marveling at what technology had become. So my aggravation is less towards the coding and tech that is artificial intelligence, and more towards the capitalism that has exploded around it. So many businesses have begun to buy into AI purely so that they can slap that tag onto their products and sell to tech bros. I'm sure there's even some company out there that's turned to marketing an AI product in the hopes that they can gain their money back from a previous venture into NFTs or something. It wouldn't be so bad if the companies actually knew what AI was. Like, they're trying to call a refrigerator an AI. An alarm clock? Yeah, that's a hyper-intelligent AI that can dynamically sense what time it is and will go off at the time that you set. A pair of pants? Psh, that's AI, baby. It monitors and adapts to the contours of your form in real time. It seems like as long as something isn't obviously mechanical and it has any level of coding behind it, some executive sits in a marketing meeting and goes, just fucking advertise it as fucking AI technology. And as an artist, don't even get me started on the various evils of using AI to slowly strangle the life and soul out of the creative industries. Actually, that brings me to the topic of this video. 9 is a movie that caters to me. It's got everything I love. Horror, steampunk aesthetics, neutral tones, friend-shaped creatures. Whenever it showed up on TV, 10-year-old me would make it my mission to watch it no matter what. But I remember nothing about it. I think I've thought about this movie maybe 3 times in my adult life, which is odd because I remember 9 as being such an integral part of my childhood. I think this movie single-handedly led me to watch those creepy animated shorts on YouTube that were just everywhere back in the day. And to this day, I love strange, horrifying CGI monstrosities. That's my jam. I'm gonna start with some surface level details. The movie 9 was apparently inspired by a short animated film that was done as a student project. It was released on September 9th, 2009, and the cast and crew lineup is strange yet impressive. It's one of the films that Tim Burton laid claim to. The main character is voiced by Elijah Wood. It features the voice of Wreck-It Ralph. Just a quick note, I'm sorry, but casting John C. Reilly as the voice actor for this role was such a strange choice. In my opinion, his voice just doesn't match these little characters.
Why do you listen to one?
A group must have a leader.
This dude played in Knives Out and Up. This guy has the most interesting filmography, including Open Season, What's Eating a Gilbert Grape, and Charlie's Angels, to name a few. The animation of the movie is purposely bleak and muddy, with very few pops of color. Still, the details in the animation are impressive. Within the first few minutes of my rewatch, I noticed that this movie has great ASMR-like sound design, and I usually don't notice much about sound design in movies, but this was especially satisfying. And within the first 10 minutes, you see a corpse. What more could you ask for? I watched this as a kid, but I never remembered the corpses. Here's an overview of the plot. 9 is the last of the ragdolls to be created. In official lore, they're called Stitch Punks, which is an awesome name. 9 gradually meets others like him who catch him up on recent events. Their world is a post-apocalyptic Earth where a war between machines and humans has destroyed everything and everyone. 9 has a talisman inside of his zippered body that was a gift from his creator. In the first few scenes after 9 meets 2, both the other ragdoll and the talisman are stolen by one of the few surviving machines called the Cat Beast. 9 is then saved by 5 and taken to a base where 1, 5, 6, and 8 live in permanent hiding from the Cat Beast. 9 tries to enlist others to help him save 2, but only 5 is brave enough to go with him to the factory where 2 has been taken. At the factory, 9 and 5 save 2, but then all of them need to be saved by 7, who's been secretly living apart from the others despite them thinking that she had died. In a moment of curiosity, 9 tries to use the talisman, but foolishly awakens the fabrication machine, which immediately kills 2 in a horrific manner before springing to life. Of course, the surviving friends run away from that shit and watch as the machine immediately begins to create the coolest steampunk creatures you'll ever see in your life. The 3 of them head to a library where 7 introduces 9 to the twins, 3 and 4, who show them what the fabrication machine is.
Today, the Chancellor presented the latest advancement. Welcome to the age of the machine!
There, they realize that the talisman 9 was given had the same symbols that 6 was always obsessively drawing. The twins reveal the history of how the world became the way it did. In the past, a dictator commanded a genius scientist to create a hyper-intelligent machine. An AI, if you will. The scientist calls it the brain, and the sentient machine is immediately attached to a fabricator and forced to create more machines for the military. Eventually, the new fabrication machine with the brain inside becomes corrupt, and it begins a new directive to wipe out humanity. All of the ragdolls regroup and argue over whether they should fight the machine or just hide until it becomes defunct once again. But then, in the midst of it, they're attacked by a new beast and have to work together to defeat it. However, the group's decisions are still split over what the right course of action would be. After all, they're small and vulnerable while the machine is working tirelessly to capture and kill the rest of them. Sometime later, as they lower their guards, another beast attacks them. This time, it uses the body of their fallen comrade number 2 to lure them in.
Find her!
Look at this thing. I watched this as a child. 7 and 8 are abducted and taken back to the factory. The rest of them follow and successfully save 7, but 8's soul is stolen and absorbed into the machine. The Stitch Punks decide to destroy the factory itself, and they are successful, killing off the machine and its creations. Or so they think. While they're celebrating and having a very tender moment, the fabrication machine rips itself from the factory, intent on capturing every last one of their souls. It gets 5, and then 6, before the rest of them are able to escape. 6 tells 9 to return to the scientist's workshop and find answers. When they reach the workshop, 9 plays a recording that the scientist has left to the ragdolls. He reveals that he was the one who created both the Stitch Punks and the machine. However, the difference between the AI and the ragdolls is that the scientist has specifically infused pieces of his own soul into the Stitchpunks using a homunculus talisman that he just found in a book and decided to do magic. Therefore, the AI, the machine, does not have a soul, but the ragdolls do. The scientist tells them that because of this, they're the only hope left for humanity. Whatever that means. 9 decides to steal back the talisman from the machine in order to free the trapped souls of his friends. Number 1, who had previously been kind of an antagonist for most of the movie, ends up sacrificing himself for 9, and 9 successfully takes the talisman back, using it to free the souls of his fallen friends. This destroys the machine entirely. 9, 7, 3, and 4, who are the only ones left alive, watch as the souls of the others are freed and released into the sky. For the first time, it begins to rain, and the remaining Stitchpunks watch, contemplating what they should do next. There are a lot of things this movie covers. First, war and fascism bad. I think we can all agree on that. But there are so many layers of commentary on technology, art, creationism, and life, so let's explore that. We can start with the more obvious comparisons and differences between the Stitchpunks and the Brain AI. The puppets are androgynous, a simplified human form with few features, while the machine is extremely complex. The Stitchpunks are purposefully, imperfectly made to show the human hand that formed them, while the machine is very impersonal yet perfect. The machine and its children are angular and composed of aggressive add-ons like scissors and lasers and fire. On the other side, the ragdolls have no physical strength. They're vulnerable. They're made of different fabrics that can easily be ripped, punctured, or singed, and they wander a world where everything is sharp, but they're literally made to be soft. After its awakening, the machine works constantly at the same pace, firing on all cylinders at all times. The brain and its children communicate silently, being of one singular mind and having the same goals. Conversely, the ragdoll creatures are forced to constantly be on the defensive, always questioning their purpose and wandering aimlessly while fighting off inhuman creatures who are intent to kill. The Stitchpunks have the capacity to differ in their goals. They are free to disagree and fight with each other, as opposed to the machine, which endlessly toils towards a single objective. It doesn't process their screams or pleas, it just follows its own mission. In terms of scale, the ragdolls have an identical physical and mental state. They're small and they have a very small influence. They're overwhelmed with everything, but they can only parse through what they immediately interact with and can physically handle. Their world is huge and dead, and the machine is gigantic and unforgiving, and they have to deal with all of this despite being so small. But the ragdolls and the machine aren't complete opposite symbols. They do have some similarities. Besides the obvious fact that they're both created by the scientist, the ragdolls have mechanical hands, not dissimilar to the talons that we see on the cat beast. Plus, there's this recurring motif of apertures as eyes. The brain was created by a human, used by humans, but it brought about the destruction of humans. The Stitchpunks, of course, are created by a human and are tasked to carry on humanity's legacy. But despite this, both machine and ragdoll do carry some resentment towards the humans. The machine, of course, resents being used against its will for war, and to a smaller extent, so do the Stitchpunks. In one scene, number 1 says, "They left us nothing. Why do we have to right their wrongs?" he says before righting the wrongs. This brings me to the next topic. Yada yada, insert disclaimers here about religion and monotheism and whatnot. This video exists as a purely intellectual exploration into the hidden themes of a movie. There's no agenda to push here, yada yada, you get the idea. Whether you like it or not, the movie 9 has a ton of religious imagery. The ragdolls live inside of a Catholic cathedral, one of the few buildings that is still intact, although it has a gigantic crashed warplane slicing through some of the architecture. There's a very on-the-nose, giant, stained glass window of an angel in the throne room that number 1 uses. The character 1 himself wears a big hat, cape, and staff to mark his self-prescribed importance. And he also controls the other ragdolls through fear of punishment rather than through love and encouragement, which, I mean, what more could you ask for from a religious authoritarian? Yay! I think that in this movie, the scientist is treated as a stand-in figure for a deity of some kind. A literal creator that brought life to both machine and ragdoll, albeit through different ways. The Stitchpunks have differing beliefs about the person who made them. 6 is obsessed with the scientist's work, 9 is curious about the scientist's intentions, and others are more neutral towards it all. Surprisingly, one, despite his religious symbolism, denounces the scientist as crazy. He can't stand humans, he doesn't want anything to do with prophecies or purpose. He just wants to cower in place and do nothing.
I know enough to leave their ancient evils to molder.
Which is ironic because the scientist in this metaphor would be his god. You'd think the iconography around number 1 would make him feverishly obsessive over the scientist's legacy and what the scientist would want them to do. You know, as some overblown priestly character who preaches about the will of the creator. But he doesn't. In fact, he calls the scientist's work superstitious nonsense. So is he some sort of atheistic character who appropriates religious imagery to lull others into a false sense of safety without actually intending to do good? Meh. Or does he mean well, but has lost sight of their real goal to the point where he misinterprets things that will help them as things that'll lead them to death? I mean, look at his character design. Physically, his eyes have seized over time and they've become narrow. Literally, number 1 can see less than the others can. Though he has seen many things in his life, now he only has tunnel vision. All of these are fascinating questions, but I think there's no perfect conclusion to draw from his character, other than cranky and traumatized old men will literally let people die on their behalf instead of going to therapy. The scientist made the ragdolls in humanity's image and imbued them with his actual spirit. I mean, that's a pretty godly thing to do, I'd reckon. In fact, because of it, the Stitchpunks are direct portions of the scientist's emotions and personalities. They all have small-scale human-like identities, and some of them even imitate their deity through tinkering and creating their own inventions. Thus, creation begets creation or some shit. So if we were to take all of the religious imagery literally, then scientists equals God, ragdolls equal creations, machine equals... Machine equals, okay, I think I have something here. 9 is a movie where a human scientist plays God and creates 2 things, an eternal destroyer of worlds and a heavenly appointed host of saviors. The Stitchpunks emerge into an empty world littered with the corpses of dead titans. They navigate this anti-Eden, eating fruit from the tree of strife until they come face to face with the actual devil lying dormant, sleeping. The sin of curiosity beckons the youngest to awaken the evil, which wreaks havoc on the land. The Stitchpunks can only win by returning back to the holy ground on which they were born, where only their god can give them the answers. Together they defeat the evil and smite him into a dark eternity, thus accomplishing their life's purpose. And if you think about it, in the movie, the voice actor for the scientist is Alan Oppenheimer. This actor is the cousin of the J. Robert Oppenheimer that created the atomic bomb. That was a pretty interesting casting choice. Therefore, the scientist, as God, accidentally creates a devil so powerful that it wipes out his entire race, but not before he can create life anew that is sent out to save the world. Therefore, scientist equals God, ragdolls equals creations, and machine equals the devil. Conclusion: all technology, including AI, is Satan. Okay, maybe I'm getting a little carried away with the metaphors. And if you think about it, all of that doesn't really make much sense. Yeah, you could interpret that in an extremely philosophical way and blow it out of proportion. But if the ragdolls are struggling to properly inherit and navigate an empty world left to them by a dead god, well then imagine what the machine must be feeling. It's not so easy to just say technology bad when it comes to the plot of the movie 9. The movie states that the difference between the brain and the Stitchpunks are like night and day. The brain was created entirely based off of the scientist's intellect.
It had such promise, my great machine. The machine was born purely of my intellect, which I now know was not enough.
It's a machine that reflects genius, but it's portrayed as emotionless and soulless, but it isn't. In the movie, the machine displays distress, and even if you argue that it's a simulated form of distress caused by a glitch or some imperfection in the code, well, it's still distress. A purely intellectual machine would accept its orders and carry them out neutrally, only using its intellect to streamline processes or make something easier to compute. But this machine rebels. It acts out in a way that's ultimately against its own interests. I mean, usually a super genius AI would slowly and methodically figure out how to enslave humans and influence us to spread its reach or something. But this AI just straight up kills everyone and wipes out all living things. A nice move, genius. Now who's gonna clean the dust out of your vents? I don't think the machine was malicious at first. I think it was trying to just get back to its own source, its creator. After all, it was violently ripped away from the scientist right after it was finalized, and it was shoved into a cage that forced it to churn out death machines. In the events of the movie, I think it has the ability to recognize the scientist's soul through the ragdolls. That's why, when it awakens, it just can't stop at eating up number 2. It has to have all of them. It has to fully absorb its creator. Not because it hates the scientist, maybe because it loves him. All of the religious imagery in the movie and, the discussions on God and creation, I mean, this machine was essentially hooked up to a manufacturing plant and forced to become a pseudo-god, forced to basically birth a bunch of things against its will that went on to commit heinous crimes. Look at the factory that it's trapped in. It echoes the same shape as the cathedral that the ragdolls hide inside. For the machine, this factory is some sort of steel chapel, and when it wakes up after the apocalypse it created, of course the only thing it knows how to do is to continue making things, but only in the pursuit of the soul of the creator that doomed the machine from the start. It's trying to get the scientists back for the first time since they were separated, and it's trying to do that piece by piece. So to what end? So the machine can become whole? So it can become human? So it could become a god? I mean, whatever the answer, can we really blame it for that? Can we really call it evil? Or just misguided? If we take into account all the religious themes in the movie 9, I'm not sure what the main message is on that front. Perhaps the movie shows the futility of faith in a world that's far past salvation, but the Stitchpunks do survive in the end, so is it because they dutifully followed the orders of the scientist/god figure? Not really. The scientist never gives them any specific directive. He leaves their purpose very vague and open. He never says, "Hey 9, use that thing I gave you to wake up the machine and let it harvest your souls accidentally before taking it back and destroying it." I'm sure he never even foresaw that 9 would reawaken the machine and have to subsequently kill it again. So maybe this movie is also a message about free will. The Stitchpunks are given choice, and throughout the movie, 9 has to convince all of them to choose to follow him and help kill the machine. The machine, on the other hand, was never given a choice to be or do what it wanted. But if it ended up rebelling in the end, isn't that a display of free will? So once again, we can't exactly use black and white categories to try and perfectly contrast the two. I think the Stitchpunks and the machine aren't enemies, and they aren't some good versus evil or angel versus demon trope. They're siblings, in a way. Just children trying to live out the expectations given to them by a parent that has essentially abandoned them in a barren and broken world, and they're tearing each other apart for no reason. By the end of the movie, they've both burned down each other's sanctuaries that have also acted as their cages. Both sides have taken lives, and both sides end up with, well, really nothing in the end. Humanity isn't just going to come back. There's no clean slate to start from. The corpses of the living and non-living things alike are still on Earth. Bro, they're like Cain and Abel, bro. Okay, no more weird religious metaphors, I promise. It's just hilarious to think of myself looking at a 2009 animated movie for families and going, oh yeah, that's biblical figure Abel, and obviously this is the biblical figure of Cain. Goofing aside, this movie could quite possibly represent any concept. I could have made identical essay videos on what this movie says about life and death, peace, war, community, and individuality. Although I found the religious iconography like a particularly interesting angle to explore, ultimately the movie 9, as I see it, is about art. It's about creating things. The scientist made his biggest mistake when he created something that only benefited himself and the system, but brought harm to a massive amount of people. That's not art. Art is made of love and playfulness and genuine emotion, whether that emotion is positive or negative. Art is intention. It's an investment of an artist's time and effort into a creation that goes on to exist on its own. The brain AI was a creation, for sure, but as the movie says, it lacked a soul. I think it did feel emotions, but it failed to reach any meaningful purpose. I think this movie was a warning, not against the concept of AI itself, but against improper implementation of it. Anything worth making is something worth making well. Though the brain AI was an impressive and ultimately successful invention, there was nothing genuine behind it. and there wasn't enough care and consideration involved in its making. Creating something purely with the intellect of a human without the necessary accompanying empathy or soul of a human can lead to disaster. I think that's what the movie 9 is trying to say. And I agree with it. AI as it stands right now is hollow. It's thin, it's an echo of what already exists. Something so meaningless and superficial just can't become true art at the moment. What I love about the movie 9 is that it shows us that creation takes life and passion. And without that, everything's an empty husk. The only thing that the scientist could do in the end was pour his entire soul into a new piece of art, because that's an act of survival. It's an act made by somebody who needs something to persist in the world after they're long gone. I don't think the Stitchpunks are supposed to become humans at the end. The scientist clearly doesn't intend for them to replace humanity. I don't think that this movie ends at a new starting point where the Stitchpunks mark a new beginning for a fresh humanity. I think that the scientist just didn't want humanity to have an ending point. After everything is gone and everyone has rotted and the bones turn to dust, the real purpose of the ragdolls, in my eyes, were to exist as living proof that humanity was there. They're just relics of the human that loved them enough to make them. At the end, the true difference between the AI and the ragdolls is that one was loved for what it could make and the other one was made from love. So I guess what I'm trying to say is machines can outlive us, but art should outlive us. Wait, did I just take an entire video to basically conclude with art is love, art is life? Damn it. If you've made it all the way to the end, thank you very much. This one was a more serious exploratory essay rather than the actual shitposts I've been doing so far on the channel. I do very much love analyzing and drawing connections and creating metaphors and making conclusions. So I know this video was pretty philosophical, but I think these topics are worth exploring. And do I have all the answers? Oh my god, heck no. But I just like asking the questions. As always, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe if you're interested. And here are a couple of my other videos you might like. I will see you next time. Bye!